capable of finding him unless they were planning to kill him. And he had a cardinal rule: get the bastards before they got you. They'd tried once, but he thought they'd given up on trying to take him. Obviously not. He raised the gun. He didn't want to put his hands on her. It had been too long since he'd had a woman, and he wasn't a man who mixed sex with killing. One was a basic need, to be ignored if it grew inconvenient. The other was a job. She climbed up the sagging front steps, and he noticed she was wearing an incredibly stupid pair of white shoes. High heels. No killer would come after him in high heels. He slowly lowered the gun and let out his breath. He hadn't realized he'd been holding it. She knocked on the door, and he could read her body language in the silver light. She was nervous. No, beyond that. She was terrified. So she must know who and what he was. What did she want with him? Curiosity was a luxury he seldom indulged. There were two choices: to kill her or to send her away. There was nothing suspicious in the run-down cottage. He'd made sure of that. His cache of weapons was hidden so well the best people in the business wouldn't be able to find them. He could simply fade into the night and wait for her to leave. He started to back away, tucking the compact Beretta into his belt, feeling the coolness of metal against his hot skin when she turned her head, and a flash of memory hit him like a fist in his gut. He knew who she was. Win Sutherland's daughter. Cherished only child of his mentor, his foster father, the man he'd trusted and loved most in this world. The man who'd given him a new life and a fresh start. And he hadn't known the price until it was too late. What the hell was Annie doing here? He hadn't seen her since the funeral, and he'd kept his protective coloring wrapped around him. She'd been so lost in grief, she had barely noticed him standing beside her at the grave, but then he'd always made sure she seldom noticed her father's protégé. He was good at that, at blending in. It was one of the reasons he'd managed to stay alive for so long. But now she was here, and he didn't know what the hell he was going to do about her. She'd been a fool to come, Annie thought, rubbing her sweaty palms against the rumpled linen of her skirt. It had taken her more than 12 hours to get here. She was exhausted and hungry, and her head ached. But most of all, she was scared shitless. She couldn't imagine why she was frightened of someone like James McKinley. She'd known him for most of her life. He'd been a family friend, her father's confidant, a pleasant, polite man who'd pose no threat to anyone. There'd been a time when he'd seemed more than that. But it was so long ago that it seemed no more than an adolescent dream, one she could barely remember. McKinley had taken her father's death hard, almost as hard as she had, and no wonder. His death had made no sense. Winston Sutherland wasn't the kind of man to misjudge his capacity for alcohol. He wasn't the kind of man who'd break his neck tumbling down the back steps of his Georgetown house. And he wasn't the kind of man who'd have his daughter be the one to find his body the next morning, already stiff with rigor. Even in death, he would have had too much power over circumstances. She hadn't been able to wipe that image out of her brain for the past 6 months. It crept into her nightmares, and nothing she could do would stop it. He wouldn't have had too much to drink. He wouldn't have fallen. But he had. According to the autopsy, the police, the kind, capable people who'd worked with her father through his various government jobs, it was nothing but a tragic accident. It was a lucky thing he'd left her.